Everybody that needs to be on the meeting is here, and then we'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to start by thanking the town of Parry Sound for their assistance in hosting this meeting, because we thought there might be a larger number of folks participating than we're used to, and because some folks have had problems with connectivity, our presenters are some of our presenters anyway are in the Parry Sound office, and we're using the facilities of their technical facilities to actually host the meeting. And so the host is actually Forrest Pengra on the staff of the town of Parry Sound. And so, Forrest, thank you for your assistance in getting everybody organized and admitted to the room and so on. I have been watching people sign on here for a few minutes, and I believe that all of the councilors are present already. Councilor Joe Lamb, I see on the screen.
Yep.
Councilor Gorham Matthews, I saw a minute ago. Councilor Joe McKinnon and Councilor Ryan Woods.
Yes.
We also have from our staff, our CAO clerk, Michelle Hendry, and our fire chief, Bob Whitman. I'll just pause in case I've missed somebody else who's come on that I haven't noticed from staff. Is there anybody else, Michelle, that you know of? Or?
I'm here
No.
as well, Mr. Mayor, Judith Mates.
Oh, Judy, thank you very much.
No problem.
I'm sorry I missed you.
That's all right.
And we have some special guests this evening who are going to be presenting at the beginning, starting with Donald Sanderson, whom I think all of you know, CEO of the West Parry Sound Health Center. And Donald happens to be the chair of our Pool and Wellness Center committees, that made up of the various municipal representatives. He volunteered for this extra assignment as if he doesn't have enough already to do, but he's been a great chair, and he's a non-voting chair, so he's here to sort of kind of been keeping us in order as we proceeded. So let me just start. Before I call the meeting to order, I just want to sort of go over a couple of ground rules, and then what we'll do is I will ask Donald to start the presentations and to introduce the folks who will be assisting him. When that's finished, then we will, or when the presentations are finished, then we will have an opportunity for those on the call, starting with the councilors, to ask questions of our presenters, and then we'll see where the proceedings take us after that. I would like to just remind everybody about a couple of things. The purpose of this meeting is to provide information on the proposal that was developed by the WCPC for presentation to municipalities. And so this is not a decision meeting. The council is not taking any decisions on anything this evening, in fact, other than to approve the agenda and well, I guess there's a confirming bylaw, and then we'll adjourn the meeting. But decisions with respect to what we're going to be talking about this evening will take place in the new year at a subsequent meeting, and you will all get lots of notice of that meeting. So we're basically here to receive information. The presenters will be will be presenting information on what's in the facility or what's proposed to be included in the facility in terms of amenities, functions, etc. We'll be talking about some of the anticipated costs based on the information that we have now and the anticipated benefits of the facility. And as I said before, they will be available to answer questions. Oh, and on things like the revenue model and so on. We do have a representative from the YMCA on the call this evening who's going to, on the assumption that the YMCA will in fact end up managing the facility. So we have someone with experience in that area. So that's the purpose of the meeting. I would ask you to do two things. First of all, with the exception of the counselors and the presenters, I would ask you to shut your camera off. You can turn it on when you want to speak if you'd like, but when you are not speaking, leave your video off, and also leave your microphone muted. And if you forget to do that, our host will be watching the screen of presenters and will probably mute you. The reason for that is simply to avoid feedback and distortion that comes from having too many microphones open, and it'll keep not having all the cameras on. We'll also cut down on our consumption of bandwidth and make it easier for everybody to see and hear. I'm just looking to see, we have, according to my records, 46 people on the call as of the moment. So with that as an introduction, I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 6:40 p.m. Hopefully we do have everybody planning to join us. And I'll ask for a motion from a council, or a mover and seconder from council. Well, I suppose I should ask first. I don't think we're going to make any decisions, so maybe it doesn't matter, but I'll ask if any councilor has a pecuniary interest to disclose. All right, hearing none, let the record show that there was no pecuniary interest disclosed. Now, can I get a mover and seconder for our brief agenda, please?
I'll make the motion, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by?
I'll second
Councillor
McEwen.
I think Councillor Woods beat you to it, Councillor McEwen, so I'll take this.
Fine.
And can I assume that everyone is in favor of that motion? Thank you. I'll declare that carried. The next motion that we need is to approve the agenda as circulated. Could I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move, Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen, seconded by?
Second, Councillor Woods.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? And I assume that there's no opposition to this agenda? All right, thank you. Now, one more formality, and this is simply to permit us to have discussion back and forth without motions on the floor. I need a motion to move into committee of the whole for the balance of the meeting.
I'll make the motion, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by?
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
Thank you. That the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone hereby moves into committee of the whole at 6:42 p.m. Any opposed to that motion? Okay, thank you. That's carried. And with that, I would like to welcome Donald Sanderson and his team of presenters, and I'm going to get him to introduce them, if that's, Donald, if you don't mind, we'll turn the floor over to you for your collective remarks and presentations, which will be shared on the screen, by the way. Those of you who are watching should see them come up.
Thank you, Mayor Comrie. And so part of my introduction slide will be to present or to introduce our expert consultant. So thank you for that. Mayor Comrie, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Donald Sanderson, and in my day job, it's my privilege to be the Chief Executive Officer at Lakeland Long-Term Care and the West Parry Sound Health Centre. This evening, it's my honor and privilege to address you as Chair of the West Parry Sound Wellness Center and Pool Committee. Mayor Comrie, in his kind introduction, just in that I have a number of interests in the West Parry Sound area, and one of the reasons why I was very interested in serving on this committee when asked is because this has everything to do with making West Parry Sound a healthier place to live. So we'll get into that a little later on in the presentation. Further to our most recent meeting of October 22nd, I've been mandated to provide a progress update and more specifically share 8 recommendations that emanated from our meeting with each of our municipal funding partners as well as our First Nation partners. I am joined this evening by a number of professional consultants, and I'll ask each of them to provide a brief introduction and outline their role in the project, beginning with Mr. Sam Spagnuolo from the firm of CSNP Architects. Good evening, Sam.
Good evening. My name is Sam Spagnuolo. I'm the principal in charge from CSNP Architects. Our firm has been around since 1962, and we've been leaders in education and recreation facilities and police facilities across Canada. Most notably is that you guys would probably be aware of is Bracebridge Recreation Facility and High School and the Gravenhurst Recreation Facility. We were also the lead architect and architect of record for the Wayne Gretzky Sportsplex. We've been involved in this project, and we feel confident that our expertise has brought us to this point where we're presenting to you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam. And next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bill Van Ryn from the Tatham Engineering firm. Bill.
Good evening. Thank you. Can everyone hear me? All right, thank you. My name, as mentioned, is Bill Van Ryn. I'm with Tatham Engineering. We are consulting engineers. We have been on the CSNP team from the beginning of this project and reviewing the servicing issues related to the various sites that have been investigated. I work out of our office in Bracebridge. We've got about a dozen people in Bracebridge, but our company spans across 5 offices. We've got about 130 people altogether. I'm the executive vice president of Tatham and have been here for just over 30 years now. We've done a number of servicing projects throughout Parry Sound, Nipissing, Muskoka, and Simcoe County. So our expertise is in the things that you don't see on a regular basis, the things that are below ground, the sewers, the water mains, drainage, stormwater management, that type of thing. So that's the input we provided to the project to date. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And from the firm of Barriston Law, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Scott McEachern. Good evening, Scott.
Thank you, Donald. I work for Barriston Law, and we've got over 32 lawyers at the firm. The main office is in Barrie. We've got 3 other satellite offices in Bracebridge, Huntsville, and Collingwood. We do work regularly for about 15 different municipalities and not so regular for another 15 different municipalities. So our role in this project has been to review the governance options and then to develop the agreement before you, the foundational agreement to set up the municipal service board. Thank you, Donald.
Thank you very much, Scott. And so these are our professional consultants joining us this evening. And we also welcome Mr. Tom Lundy and Mr. Ryan Purdy, who are co-chairs of and members of the Citizen Advisory Committee. We also have a large number of supporters and interested citizens from the municipality of Whitestone and beyond, and we thank you for joining us this evening. The benefits of activation and socialization are well researched and accepted. Beyond supporting many of the social determinants of health, this wellness center and pool complex will be an economic driver throughout our region. Whether one uses the facility or not, we will all benefit from peripheral benefits of this project as we continue to attract families, workers, professionals, businesses, and industry to this exceptional area that we are privileged to share. After decades of discussion and examination, we have a significant opportunity to make this vision a reality. Notwithstanding the prospect of 73% capital funding from our federal and provincial governments, our communities have indicated that they are solidly aligned with us. They include citizens and ratepayers, numerous health professionals, including the West Parry Sound Health Center and our medical team, the District of Parry Sound Social Services Administration Board, the West Parry Sound Regional Economic Development Collaborative, Parry Sound Area Chamber of Commerce, to name a few. All this is to say that after 30+ years and a number of dress rehearsals than we've ever been to realizing what so many communities aspire to provide for their citizens, a wellness center and pool. While there are elements of excitement for the possibilities and perhaps some anxiousness with respect to the unknowns, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that this is our time. This is community building, and this is our opportunity to provide leadership. Above all, improve the health and wellness of the citizens that together we are privileged to serve. As a reminder, in September of 2019, the 7 councils that comprise West Parry Sound gave the Wellness Center and Pool Committee a mandate to undertake due diligence. This presentation is reporting back the results of that due diligence work and recommendation for council's consideration. The elected representatives and senior staff of the municipality of West have been active participants and supporters of a West Parry Sound Area Recreation and Culture Center from the beginning. Slide 4 provides the resolution that emanated from your council meeting of September 16th in 2019. This is attachment A as referenced in the preceding slide. It outlines the endorsed model for decision-making and respective roles for the Citizen Advisory Committee, the steering committee that's comprised of municipal chief administrative officers, and a future sponsorship fundraising committee. All reporting to the Wellness Center and Pool Committee, which I chair, and ultimately accountable to the respective councils that are highlighted in blue at the top of the chart. In November 2019, your council also supported the town of Parry Sound in taking the lead on making an application to the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, or ICIP grant, with potential funding at 73% of capital costs. With respect to due diligence, there were a number of distinct components, deliverables, if you will, of a successful plan, application for funding and development that identified and received considerable and informed examination and discussion. Those elements included site selection, conceptual design and programming, a governance model to oversee the operation of the facility, and cost sharing agreement. I'll go through each of these deliverables briefly in the following slides. In terms of site selection, the steering committee engaged an independent architect and engineer through an RFP process. We established the criteria to be used for site evaluation and ultimately evaluated potential building sites and made a recommendation. This slide outlines the site evaluation matrix that includes 5 criteria and the associated weighting for each. The first criteria examined location, accessibility, and visibility, and it was weighted at 20%. Also weighted at 20% was cost to purchase and prepare the building site. The third element examined cost to provide sewer, water, hydro, natural gas, and high-speed connectivity, and that was weighted at 25%. While the property size and ability for future development was weighted at 20%. And finally, a phase 1 environmental assessment was weighted at 15%. The site evaluation due diligence results indicated that the YMCA's 15-acre site received the highest overall rating. It was the least costly in terms of site servicing and site preparation. It's on a main entrance to the town, highly visible, and currently has an existing recreational use. Geotechnical work and soil testing confirmed that the site is suitable to build the facility. Additionally, the town owns 9 acres directly to the north of the YMCA property. There's also a significant amount of privately owned developable land in close proximity that could be developed for complementary uses in the future. And the YMCA has been involved throughout the process and are prepared to enter into a 100-year lease, which we'll discuss a little further in the presentation. With respect to conceptual design and programming, a citizen advisory committee co-chaired by Tom Landy and Ryan Purdy was created to gather public input in terms of what functions and amenities the community would like to see in their pool and recreation center. The architects incorporated as many of the advisory committee's recommendations that would fit within the estimated $32 million funding envelope. It's worth noting that it's not merely a pool or a gym. It has been programmed to attract families and drive memberships, which in turn generates substantial, sustainable funding for the facility's operations. We're indeed fortunate to have the expert support and advice of our community partner at the YMCA that well understand how communities and members respond to various composites of programs and services and the accompanying cost-benefit analysis. With respect to the recommendations of the Citizens Advisory Committee, the request to expand the pool to 6 lanes, including a video area to accommodate spectators to swim meets and gymnasium competitions, could not be incorporated due to the estimated additional $8.7 million in capital costs and an additional $130,000 in annual operating expenses. This plan does include a leisure therapeutic pool with defined play area, amenities, and a relaxation area. As well as sauna is to be located off of the pool deck, and that has been incorporated into the revised plans. As has a single gymnasium with the ability to accommodate 3 pickleball courts, a 95-meter 2-lane indoor walking track, and a common gathering area for families to meet. With respect to items 8 and 9, the plans also include 1 large divisible multipurpose room, 1 medium multipurpose room, and 2 small multipurpose rooms, a 5,000 square foot fitness studio, as well as a 1,500 square foot studio. Future considerations include opportunities to recognize Indigenous culture and local history, perhaps charging stations for electric vehicles, superior energy efficiency, as well as accommodating outdoor tennis courts and/or a water splash park feature. This slide provides a visual representation of the major components of the facility. Starting at the bottom right with the lap and therapeutic pools in the darker blue. Above that in a grayish color are the change rooms, a small administrative area in a shade of green, The fitness facility, studio, and walking track are at the top right in tan. Beside that in rose color is the gymnasium. And then the common area and vending machines are in a tan yellow, as well as the multipurpose rooms are in a purple color. The plan reflects a facility that is designed to maximize interest and memberships. There's a direct relationship between the number of memberships and a stable operating revenue. With pools, a sauna, gym, walking track, fitness studios, and meeting rooms, there's something for everyone in this complex. This next slide, while rather busy, reflects and highlights the shared governance agreement. The actual partnership agreement has been amended, it was drafted and recommended by the steering committee with the assistance of Mr. McEachern, legal counsel, and is appended to the report. Of note, as per the last bullet, the agreement is crafted to protect minority shareholders. To summarize, the estimated cost of this project is $32 million. The federal provincial grant application for 73% of the capital cost, the municipal portion being roughly 27 cents on the dollar, the YMCA as our preferred operator, and the proposal calls for a 100-year lease from the Y at a cost of $1 per year. In terms of cost allocations, of the $32 million project, municipalities will be responsible for $8.6 million in capital costs and a projected annual operating cost of $300,000. The cost allocation formula is the same formula that each municipality agreed to fund the shared costs of due diligence. The operating costs are projected to diminish over time with increased memberships and facility use. As noted in the lower section of the chart, the municipality of Whitestone will be responsible for 6.1% of those costs. And that equates to $527,040 in one-time capital costs and $18,316 annual operating dollars. Bear with me, we're in the home stretch, both in terms of this presentation and following a year of hard work dedicated to due diligence in support of the original mandate. The Wellness Center Pool Committee reconvened on the 22nd of October and passed the following recommendations. 8 of the 9 recommendations were passed unanimously, with 1 recommendation receiving 6 out of 7 votes in the affirmative. The final direction of our Wellness Center Pool meeting of October 22nd was to update municipal funding partners and First Nation funding partners and present the community's recommendations. Needless to say, we continue to feel positive and follow the status of our federal provincial grant application very closely. Just prior to concluding, I would like to share a few thoughts specific to Whitestone. This is our 3rd presentation, and we've learned some things in our first 2, and we're trying to anticipate some of the concerns that communities may have and address them in the presentation. I do apologize. I've got 2 additional slides that may or may not have been shared with the council in advance, but if you'll bear with me, they're brief, and I'd like to go through them at this point. The results of the Community Advisory Committee's survey in the summer gathered public input on functions and amenities in the proposed recreation center, showed significant support from Whitestone for the center. There were concerns provided, and they centered largely on 3 themes that included the recreation center will be too far away for Whitestone to enjoy any economic benefits, the cost of the facility and its potential impact on taxes, and seasonal residents' use or absence of use of the Recreation Committee. On behalf of the committee, I'd like to respond or reiterate the following. 1, with respect to utilization and economic benefits to Whitestone. This is much more about community and capacity building than it is about an individual's use. We're part of a single West Parry Sound economic region, and it's common for citizens in West Parry Sound to live in one municipality while working in another. Without a recreation center, we will be at a significant competitive disadvantage in attracting investment and a workforce as families relocate from high density locations in pursuit of healthier environments. Secondly, in terms of the capital costs and how it will affect taxes in Whitestone, this one-time opportunity for 73% provincial federal funding will contribute significantly to lowering building costs. That said, in the municipality of Whitestone, this is estimated to add a one-time, not annual tax increase of 1.79%. And that equates to $8.23 for every $100,000 in residential assessment. And thirdly, with respect to seasonal residents' use of a pool and recreation center, while some seasonal residents may not be interested in using or supporting a regional wellness or pool facility, we've heard from a large number who have indicated that they are very much interested. Increasingly, new residents to West Parry Sound, both seasonal and permanent, want to be able to stay healthy whenever they're here. While our beautiful lakes provide the ultimate swimming experiences during the warmer months, increasingly, seasonal dwellings are becoming 3- and 4-season residents. And again, this is about community building. A regional wellness and pool facility will help us to attract and retain the workforce that operates healthcare, business, industry, and the many other services that all of us, including seasonal residents, depend on 24/7, 365 days a year. As I conclude my remarks this evening, the realization of a wellness and pool center for West Parry Sound is not merely about addressing individual needs and desires. This is about community building. The municipality of Whitestone has a long and proud history of community building. There's a large need in our community, a need that will improve the health status, infrastructure, and economy for everyone within West Parry Sound. The opportunity for 73% capital funding is unlikely to happen again, while long-term borrowing rates have never been this low. Therefore, we believe that the time is now. I thank you for your kind attention, and my colleagues and I are happy to entertain your questions, concerns, and comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Donald. Are there any other are any other members of the team, the architects, engineers, and so on? Are they do they have material to present, or are we ready for questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're ready for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess I'll give the first opportunity then to our members of council. If councilors would like to indicate that you can do that either by if you have your camera turned on, you can do that by waving your hand, or you can do it by there's a raise hand function down on the participant line of your Zoom screen, which you can which you can put on to indicate that you want to speak. I'm just going to try and get mine back up here myself. You see at the bottom of the participants list says raise hand. So anyway, I'll try and turn my camera back on if I can. Sorry, no, I'm having, okay, I've got my camera back on. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, is there someone from the council who wishes to start the proceedings? I see Councillor Gordon Matthews. Go ahead, please.
Sure. Thank you. Yes, thank you for being here tonight to present to us and give us more information. My question is regards to the reserve fund that's mentioned in the package. It says that there will be a reserve fund for, future repairs and whatnot. I'm just curious, is that part of the annual operating costs, the 18,000 that we'd be paying yearly, or is there an additional charge that we would be paying each year as well?
Thank you very much, Councillor. That's an excellent question. It's my understanding that it is included in the annual operating. There's a cost, there's an evergreen component of that, but I will ask Mr. Ryan Purdy from the YMCA to elaborate on that, please.
Thank you for the question. There is a portion of, and usually in our operating budget, where we set administrative fees or capital fees aside. We usually look at setting aside 2% of annual revenue towards future capital expenses. In saying this, it's no guarantee, though, that this 2% is a sufficient amount of finances to cover certain expenses later on down the road. There is unforeseen expenses that could come up that would exceed what this pool of money does amount to. So to answer your question, it's certainly in everyone's intention to be setting aside money down each year for future expenses down the road. But of course, there's no guarantee at this time that 2% would be sufficient to cover any expenses in the future.
Thank you, Brian. Councillor, does that answer your question? Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions from council? Councillor McEwen, go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thanks for coming up this evening, Mr. Sanderson and company. Most informative. Question I have is it, I guess, more a comment. If you make a comment on the weighting vote, Whitestone would receive a single vote. Is that one whole vote, or by weighting, is it like 0.75 of a vote? I've been asked that question and I wasn't quite sure how to answer it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. It's my understanding that it is a whole vote, but I will ask Mr. Scott McEachern to answer that question. He helped us with the governance model.
That's correct. It would be one vote.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay, thank you, Scott. That's my only question momentarily. Thank you.
Who wants to go next?
Councillor Lamb?
Go ahead, Councillor Lamb.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, thank you, Donald and Tom and Ryan and Bill and Scott and I think that's everyone for coming out and briefing us tonight. We, of course, took a look at your presentation earlier. So my question, I don't know who to direct this to, but in the event some community of the 7 bows out, specifically Whitestone or McKellar, and those 2 as only an example. And I know the answer is you don't wish for anyone to bow out. But having said that, what is your contingency if someone does? Do the added costs, whatever they may be, and I think McKellar is like 9% and we're 6%. I may be out a little bit, but would would that cost be apportioned to the other communities, or have we thought about that?
I'll thank you, Councillor Lamb. I'll give my response and then ask Mayor Comrie to validate that or chime in. Just to begin with that, the Council of Whitestone, as well as the other municipalities with West Parry Sound, gave us a mandate to apply for the infrastructure at 73%. And so that grant is predicated on the support, the unanimous support of the 7 municipalities that make up West Parry Sound. If if a municipality isn't able to, or decides that they don't want to be part of that anymore, then I think we would need to go back, almost not to the drawing board, but we'd have to have significant discussions around what that would mean to the status of our grant. And to be clear, we don't know for sure what that is, but again, our moving forward is predicated on that being successful. We have not heard one way or the other, but we can share with you that communities that have not been successful, I believe a number of them have heard already. So we believe that kind of no news is good news. But I will ask Mayor Comrie for his comments, please.
Okay, thank you. I think that's probably the best answer that I could give to the question. As I think everybody knows, the various councils are in the process of receiving presentations like the one that we're receiving tonight, and some of them, I suspect they may all treat it slightly different. Some of them will. I believe like 1 or 2 of them have already indicated their commitment to proceed on the basis of all the recommendations that have been presented, and others have yet to do so. So I think it's correct to say that if a municipality, when the dust settles, the funding has been announced and everybody's ready to proceed. If there are municipalities that don't want to proceed, then that would cause a reset to take place, and I guess the remaining municipalities who wish to continue would then go back and look at what the implications of that are. And I suppose there's some possibility that could also jeopardize the federal funding if it were to happen in any sort of a wide scale. The point that I would make about this is that I think we'd be in a very different situation if it were possible for any of the municipalities on their own to achieve this project. You have heard a number of times that not Parry Sound or Parry Sound and McKellar or Parry Sound and McKellar and Seguin and Quarling by themselves, even or collectively, are in a position to pull this off. It's been attempted over a large period of time, and so the only way that it's going to happen is if a significant percentage of the required capital funding comes from a higher level of government, and if it is supported on a West Parry Sound wide basis. So I think that's the best answer we can give at this point in time.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I don't want to be argumentative, but as you know, we put a letter together for all our citizens with all the facts, and I think it's an excellent letter that our CAO put together, basically asking whether they support or they don't support this. So it seems sort of farcical if we're trying to say, well, this is all an exercise kind of in futility, because if a whole bunch of people say no, the vast majority say no, and I'm not suggesting that may or may not be, that this is all academia because it's already been decided. Because I will assure you as a counselor I haven't decided on this. The only, I haven't decided on the funding or whether I'm trying to listen to the electorate, which is, I think, what a good counselor should do. So I have some disagreement. If I could just carry on with a couple other questions. Why was Seguin?
Sorry if I could just interrupt you, but I'm hoping that we could, while we have our guests on the line, if there are any, if there are questions related to what was or wasn't included in the facility or any of those kinds of things, I'm just being sensitive to their time. I would rather get those out of the way, and then if necessary, they can.
Okay, thank you.
Just going to talk about
I'll
things that
ask-
are specific to what Whitestone's participation. I would prefer if we could leave that to the end of the meeting and not.
Sure, I'm sure you would. I'm sure you would. I have a few questions of Ryan.
Go ahead, please.
First of all, if I'm a member of the Y in Kitchener and I want to join the Y in Parry Sound, do I have to pay? Do I have to pay the fees in Parry Sound, or is my Kitchener membership, or London or anywhere else, automatically transferable on an as-needed basis to Parry Sound?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So it's YMCA privileges are reciprocal across YMCA's in the country. So we will honor anyone's membership from any other place in the country for a visit. We track access, and if we believe that someone is using one of our facilities as their primary location, we then notify them and ask them to purchase a membership at our facility. If they're using our amenities as their gym, they should be paying a membership fee to support our community. So we do track that, but for a few visits here or there, people traveling through on business or on vacation, we more than welcome their visit.
Councillor Lamb, is there another question for Ryan? And I believe you're on mute. Now you're off. Thanks.
Yeah, no, Brian, sorry, am I there?
You are.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm getting a little mixed up here. The model, I'm a little concerned about the $18,000 or $19,000 a year in operating costs, which over a 10-year period can be substantial, as you know. So what was the membership model that you worked with to establish the $18,000 or $19,000 in our case, or the $300,000 loss? What was the membership model you're working with?
Sure. So we use for this scenario that we were asked to provide, we looked at what we call our classic membership. So this is what the community of Parry Sound was used to at their facility. So we used an all-inclusive model. So you pay one membership fee and you have full access to the whole facility and all amenities that come in it. It's not necessarily the membership model that we use in other municipalities and other YMCAs in our association. For this scenario, we sort of had to provide one example, so we chose to look at our classic all-inclusive membership model, but there are certainly different membership options that we can explore down the line to see how we can best maximize membership revenues.
Okay, one final question for you, Ryan. If Whitestone is in or out, and I understand if we happen to be out, that there would be all kinds of discussions occur, but what does it mean for the ratepayer in Whitestone? How would their Y membership look in the event that Whitestone were in or out? Or is it basically a Y membership is a Y membership is a Y membership?
So historically in our association, a Y membership is a Y membership. If you are a member, if you live in an area that surrounds the YMCA, you are more than welcome to sign up for a membership if you live in that surrounding area and we are your closest facility.
Okay, I'll have more questions later, but I'll leave it for now.
Sir Lamb, may I make just two comments, please? One would be
Fran?
that we haven't determined so well, the YMCA is our preferred partner and they know pools. So I would strongly recommend that that decision hasn't been finalized yet. So that's, I think that's important to know. The other thing is that Mr. Purdy and colleagues, when they were coming up with the revenue with the projected operating costs, they did, well, they settled on a type of membership. Their numbers are very conservative. They used in terms of, so they didn't want to underestimate what that annual operating grant would be required to operate. But I can assure you, I feel very strongly that we can reduce and or eliminate that operating cost with working in concert with all of our municipal partners and communities. I think it's very achievable, and I would put a reputation on it.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, my simple question was, did you base it on 1,000, 2,000, 4,000 memberships? How many memberships did you base it on? I think someone ought to be able to answer that.
Yeah, I can answer that question. So when we built the scenario for this project, we looked at having a membership base of 2,000 members, which is conservative, as was mentioned earlier. So 2,000 members was the number that we built these projections off of.
Okay, and how many of those did you project coming from Whitestone?
We did not look at individual municipalities. We looked at the overall attachment of the whole population that would make up the West Parry Sound area.
Okay, thank you.
Did I see Councillor Gorham Matthews waving her hand there a minute ago? Did you have a question, Councillor Gorham Matthews?
Well, a couple of them were the same as Councillor Lamb's. I was curious about under the YMC model, if we weren't a part of the board, if our ratepayers would still be able to take part in the activities. My other question was with regards to if it was the YMCA running the wellness center. I've never been a part of a Y before. Would you pay additional fees to do certain activities, say if there were exercise classes or if you were to take swimming lessons for your kids? Would you have additional fees on top of your basic membership, was my question.
So our current membership model, the answer is no. Our current membership model, we have an option for an all-inclusive membership in which you can participate in fitness classes, swimming lessons, all the activities and programming that is in the facility. And there's no additional a la carte fees for your membership. What you pay and the services that we provide are all right there.
So Ryan, how much would a family of 4 cost under that model if they just wanted to pay one time?
I think it's premature to answer that question. I think that's certainly a conversation for down the road. Our fees are different from municipalities, and it's based upon conversations with the residents, with our municipal partners as we get closer to opening, what we believe is the best rate for the community. And it does vary from different municipalities at this time.
Thank you. Councillor McEwen. You need to unmute your mic on Zoom, Councillor McEwen.
How's that? Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I have a question. It's center-based more around the education system. And throughout West Parry Sound, we have a couple thousand student population. And I'm quite aware that it's not in the interest of school boards to build wellness centers. I'm wondering what the thought has been and with respect to including and being inclusive of the St. Peter's and the public education system of supplying student-based locations for swimming lessons, recreation from schools.
Well, thank you, Councillor McEwen. I'll ask Ryan to weigh in on it. I would just say that early on, we looked at formal affiliations with educational organizations, and for a number of reasons, ability of land use and space, as well as restrictions on use, made that we determined that wasn't practical. But certainly we would be marketing with whoever it is that operates our pools, presumably the Y, marketing a number of programs at school-aged children, particularly with respect to learning to swim and life-saving, those types of things that many of us have driven our children to Bracebridge to attain their life-saving certification. So Ryan, please go ahead.
Actually, if I could pass it to Sam, I think he might be best to answer this question.
Thank you, Ryan. Sam?
Yes, so we've been involved in a number of projects where education has played a big part in community centers. This is a community center, and the key word is community, and children and high school kids are part of the community and an important part of the community to grow a community. If you look at Bracebridge, which is closest to this area, it's a high school. It's a wellness center. It is a theater. It has community sports that share the fields, teams that share the fields. We were involved in another very large project in South Calgary, where we built a high school, a YMCA, a two-pad arena, and a library all under one roof. It was a 6-acre roof site, and it's a very successful part of a hub for the community. So they all work together, and it's a community team building center. So
Okay,
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. I know we have First Nations who have not opted in right at this point, and I would hope there will be room for them as this wellness center would move forward. I know the educational component of the swimming lessons alone within a wellness center, considering we're on Georgian Bay and all the hundreds of inland lakes and the people who would potentially learn how to swim and have swimming lessons from a location like this is very significant. So just thinking of the benefit from the fees point of view, from all the memberships that could come, or whatever arrangements could be made with educational locations. Just a comment. Thank you.
Huge opportunity to enhance some public health, and particularly with respect to injury prevention.
So I haven't heard from Councillor Woods. I don't know if you had any questions that you wanted to ask.
I did,
Brian,
Mr.
before we open the meeting up to the general audience for questions.
I did, Mr. Mayor.
Please
Councillor
go
Woods.
ahead.
As far as expansion, so the initial project's going to be the $32 million pool and leisure complex. Is there any plans for future expansion on the property or around the property? You mentioned that, the town of Parry Sound owns a chunk of land adjacent to it. Was there any plans for expansion of, say, splash pads or outdoor wading pools or park facilities for everyone else? And if so, if Whitestone would be in on this, would they also automatically be in on that?
Great question. Thank you. Sam, would you please respond?
So the site that we looked at was about 5 acres of the 15 acres that are owned by the YMCA. And there's another 9 acres that is at the town of Parry Sound that abuts onto it. So there are opportunities for growth and to expand the programming. Some of the lands is some marshy lands, but not suitable for building without great expense, but is suitable for parking and auxiliary uses such as fields and those type of sports fields and those type of uses. So there are opportunities for growth. Currently with the funding, we only looked at the facility as it stands as presented, but there are opportunities for growth and increase the community base facilities.
Okay,
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank
Another question that I have, I'm not sure who would be answering it. What is the current state of the Y in Parry Sound as far as health and fitness facilities? What kind of programs do they offer?
Ryan, would you answer that question, please?
Yeah, thank you for your question. At this time, we are currently not offering any health, fitness, and aquatic programming in the Parry Sound area. We continue to support the community by offering childcare, which is looking to expand in some of the spaces that we were using for our health and fitness programming at the current location. We also continue to support the community with our employment programs. So we're looking at this time for future opportunities to bring health and fitness back to the area. At this time, though, we are not currently operating out of that our existing facility.
Okay, and another question for you, Ryan. You mentioned the all-inclusive pass when it came to the Y. So say this facility is built, the facility that exists now in Parry Sound, I know not too long ago, there was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes being offered out of there. If it was an all-inclusive type of thing, would you have to pay extra for those type of classes? Or would that be included in your Y membership?
So great question. We've explored different options in the future. So in some of our facilities that we offer right now, we do offer Taekwondo. It is a additional fee on top of the all-inclusive membership. It's a small fee on top of the membership fee each month to participate in those programming. In saying that, though, as we get further down the line here, that is certainly something we can explore of what offerings do we have, and if a programming like Taekwondo or a martial arts program can be included in the cost of a general membership, is certainly something we can explore together.
Okay, that's all I have to ask for now. Thank you.
Councillor Lamb, Ryan, one more question. Just for clarification, I thought that over the last 6 months that the Y in Parry Sound, the programming other than daycare and that kind of stuff was shut down. I assume it was for lack of participation, but I don't know the answer to that. But is that not true that the programming in Parry Sound was shut down over the last six months or so?
You're correct. So we stopped operating sort of our health and fitness programming out of that facility at this time, and we're looking at expanding some more of our childcare options in the facility. In saying that, though, we're certainly interested in being a part of the community and looking at opportunities to resume our health and fitness programming. We just are unable at this time to operate out of our current facility, as we're prioritizing our childcare and employment services at this time.
Okay, are there any other questions from councilors?
Mr. Mayor, I have one. It's Councillor Woods again. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Go ahead.
Mr. Sanderson, you mentioned in doing the presentation that this would only represent a 1.79% tax increase for Whitestone. One time. We put out a newsletter that said otherwise. I was just wondering where you got that information from.
Sorry, thank you, Councillor. So I stand to be corrected. I asked what a certain percentage in tax increase would mean on a property value per 100,000 of residential evaluation, and I did a quick calculation. I thought that that added that jive, but as I said, I stand to be corrected.
Perhaps what I could do is ask our CAO clerk who provided the numbers that were sent out to the ratepayers. Can you comment on that? Are these numbers different? And if they are, why?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 1.79% tax increase is based on a 20-year debenture. What I'm understanding, and I now realize I was just talking to CAO Clayton Harris, how to word this properly, because he's an accountant. Once you raise the taxes, for the next 20 years, the amount that you have raised the taxes to fund that 1.79% is always for the next 20 years dedicated to the paying off that debenture. In other words, we wouldn't be raising the taxes 1.79% year after year after year for the next 20 years. But that 1.79% would be accounted for each and every year for 20 years to the debenture for the pool. And I know that Mr. Harris is listening, so I'm going to, if I've explained that properly, don't weigh in, but if I haven't explained it quite right, please do.
Okay, sounds like you explained that correctly.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Woods, I have one other question for the architect company.
Go ahead, please.
So if we take out a loan over 20 years at 1.79% tax increase to pay for the pool complex now, in 20 years' time, in your professional opinion, what type of repairs or expenses do you think we could come across that we might have to pay more for on a facility like this?
That's a tough call. In 20 years, like anything else, it's all about maintenance and how the facility's operated. What we see typically is the main mechanical equipment start after 20 years seems to have to start being replaced. Again, it all depends on the maintenance, the use, and the care of the facility. It's just like you have your car, and if you maintain it well and look after it, it'll last longer. If you just forget to put oil in it, you're going to need a new transmission and a new motor. So.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just add to that. So there is a 2% reserve fund in the operating expenses existing. And as Ryan indicated, it's, that's not to guarantee that it would cover everything. But if we build the facility properly in the first place, we're looking at enhanced energy efficiency and using materials that are environmentally friendly and long lasting, then the hope is to be evergreening continually, again, so that we're not looking at major capital expenditures as the years increase.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions from councillors at this point? I can then open up the Q&A session to other people who are on the call. I know there are a number of you there already. What I would ask you to do, please, is two things. First of all, ask questions, not get into lengthy dissertations about your own views. And again, I ask that out of respect for our expert panel who are here. And the other thing is, please, before you speak, introduce yourself, so everybody knows who's talking, and please try to be brief. Who wants to go first?
Dan Jevons.
I see hands up. Dan, go ahead, Dan. Well, I didn't see your hand up, but
Well, I didn't put my hand, but
I saw you before, I thought. So go ahead.
Okay. My question is to Mr. Sanderson. We've talked about the capital costs. We talked about the operating costs. We haven't talked about the revenues expected on an annual basis.
I'm sorry, Mr. Evans.
Okay, you've mentioned capital costs. You've mentioned the costs for operating, but what about the revenues?
So, I will ask for the Y to comment on that specifically, but there is a revenue projection and it is conservative and it's based on 2,000 paid memberships within the West Parry Sound region. And
okay, so
that's where that number came from.
Say, for example, that you charge $40 per member. So there's $80,000 per month, $960,000 per year. You've got an annual operating cost of $300,000. I'm just wondering why there's a $300,000 operating cost that's still shared by the municipalities.
So that 300,000 is the difference between a very conservative projection of revenue from memberships, and then what the Y knows in terms of standard ongoing operating costs based on their experience in other operations of a similar size. And so there's a projected shortfall, and that's what that is projected at. And the somehow that would need to be made up, and that's the steering committee came up with that they would apportion those the same way as the capital cost. There's a good chance, I believe, that operating revenue can be reduced significantly. Certainly our goal would be to eliminate it. It may take a couple of years to do that, but I think it's a very reasonable expectation for us to do that, and I feel strongly about that.
So you mentioned that there's 2,000 people that you're expecting as part of the starting up. What is the total number, or what's the total number of people from all the municipalities that we could draw on? Do we know that?
There's a number of numbers that could be used, but I'll ask Ryan to speak to the number that was used in coming up with the operating revenue assumptions, please.
Because it just seems that 2,000 seems to be a low number for a complex like this.
Well, it is a low number in that we wanted to be really conservative. We wanted to make sure we used a number that we could stand behind. Over time, we would certainly hope to increase that, to raise membership revenue, but that's why that number is low to begin with. Ryan, could you talk about the what percentage that represents in terms of the base population number that's used for West Parry Sound?
Yeah, so I believe that, I don't believe, we looked at having 18,000 folks sort of as the attachment area and the potential YMCA members. We took about 11%, which kind of gives us around that 2,000 members mark as a starting point. And again, as Donald has said, we were conservative. We were intentional to be conservative in projecting these early, and there certainly is opportunities for us to increase the number of members in the facility.
Okay, I have other questions, but I'll let others take their chance.
Thank you, Dan.
Perhaps, Mr. Chair, could I just add? Mr. Chair, could I just add to Mr. Purdy's comment?
Go ahead, please.
From a previous presentation, I believe Mr. Purdy said that Gravenhurst currently gets 16% of their residents have a membership in their facility. So as Mr. Sanderson mentioned, the 11% that's factored into these numbers are conservative because it's 11% membership of the population. And in actual fact, Gravenhurst has achieved 16% and some even higher.
Okay, thank you. Clayton.
May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, please. Introduce yourself and ask your question.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Johan Harstad. I'm on Trillium Lane in Whitestone. So I have a couple of questions that has to do with the financial side of things here. And so I'm not sure who will answer that. Maybe Mr. Sanderson is the right person. But anyways, the first one has to do with the 32 million investment. My experience is that most projects always become more expensive than you plan them to be, whether private or public. And I don't see any difference in this case. So I'd like to have a question how accurate that is. The second question to Mr. Sanderson is about the return on investment. He mentioned that there will be a financial benefit for Whitestone residents, even though we're kind of far away. And I'd like to understand what is that return on investment, and can he please share the details of that calculation? That was the second question. My third question has to do with the tax increase. So for 20 years, 1.73% per year. So it's not a one-time, it's an annual increase, right? It's not just a one-time increase, it carries on for 20 years. And I assume also a clarifying question that the assumption is that that increase will continue forever, because after 20 years, we have to do some major repairs on, or maybe replacement even on the facility. Thank you very much. Appreciate the clear response. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. So I'll begin with the first one in terms of the estimating the cost of building, and I'll ask the architect to an engineer to support or to respond as well. But there is a significant contingency amount in that budget figure that would allow for any escalating costs or cost overruns. And Sam, could you speak to that?
Yeah. So part of our team was a cost consultant, Ingersoll costing consultants, and we built in a very conservative contingency, both design contingency and construction contingency. So that was how the $32 million was achieved and what was presented to in the funding application. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Sam. So in terms of the other questions in terms of return on investment, so there are not hard numbers there. There are my comments are based on the fact that people are West Parry Sound is becoming a desirable place to live as people seek healthy environments in less densely populated areas, and the ability to provide for people's health and wellness on a year-round basis will attract people to the West Parry Sound, and it will enable us to attract talent to our health facilities, as an example, as well as industry and generate retail operations throughout West Parry Sound. So it really helps to enhance the health of our community and make West Parry Sound a desirable place to live. I believe that will result in enhanced property values for ratepayers and tax bases for municipalities as well. But I'm not an expert in that, and perhaps I shouldn't proffer my own opinions. In terms of the increase on taxes, I would ask the CAOs to speak to any questions around that. Again, I'm perhaps out of my element in that respect.
So just to be clear, then the financial benefit is it's a gut feel, but it's not nothing firm behind that estimate.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There has been a bit of traffic on the chat about people raising their hands. It's actually in the participants menu. If you have the participants menu clicked, you will see a list of participants down the right-hand side. You don't actually need the chat menu to be open for that, but you will see that there is a series of symbols at the bottom of the list of participants, one of which is raise hands. And if you click on that raise hands, what will happen is your name will, the little blue raised hand symbol will come on the participants list, and your name will float to the top of the list. And that's how we can see who wants to speak. So the next person that I have on the list here is Margaret May. Margaret, do you want to go ahead, please?
Good evening. Thank you very much for the presentation. I know what kind of work it is to prepare these kinds of assessments with community input. So I have two questions. One is clarification. Reference is made to the YMC site as a preferred site. Is that an acquisition to purchase that site? And are you talking about a capital project that is renovation and expansion or 100% new facility? That's the first question. The second is in terms of the business plan for the operating costs. I would say that just using a percentage of total population is not nuanced enough to get a good look at what the operating or, you know, the revenue side would be. And so I hope there'll be a more detailed business plan with demographic analysis in terms of understanding of who actually uses YMCA facilities. So one is a question, and two is I hope there's more details in a business plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those questions, Ms. May. So so first of all, the acquisition of the preferred site, which is currently operated by or owned by the YMCA, it would be that they would enter into a long-term 100-year lease for $1 a year with the governance model. And they've also indicated, though, if that is if that creates problems for the municipalities, that they would be prepared to look at a sale of the land at a substantial, at a very reasonable price, if not a donation. The cost of demolition of that current site has been included in the analysis of the different costs for each site. So that was figured into coming up with that site as the preferred alternative. Wonder perhaps we could ask Mr. Van Ryn to discuss that or to expand on that.
So thank you, Donald. So yes, the site plan for conceptual site plan for the current YMCA site is for that existing building to be demolished and an entirely new facility will be constructed. That's the plan we've worked on to date.
Thank you. And then in terms of the business plan for operating costs, so I concur with one of the great, if it is determined that we would be partnering with the YMCA, they have tremendous experience in managing pools. That's what they do. If it's a huge part of their business, they have experience all around us, and that information would be brought to bear in terms of putting together a reasonable operating model that looks to maximize revenues. As we indicated in the proposal, it's around putting together programs and services that would be attractive to families and that would maximize revenue.
Okay, thank you. Let me go back to my list here and see who is next. I see Councillor Woods. Councillor Woods, did you have another question that you wanted to ask, or is it just is your hand raised from before?
That was from earlier, Mr. Mayor. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. The next one I think is Bruce Morris.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bruce Morris, and I'm on Owl's Nest Road in Whitestone, Dunchurch area. A couple questions to Ryan. You know, we're looking at I've heard lots of great ideas around, you know, building programs for people to come to, but the YMCA in Parry Sound is closed. There is no health facility right now. What makes you think that we would actually have more people go there if the YMCA couldn't sustain itself? That's one thing. And then I need to understand a little bit more about the expenses that we're talking about. I know we've had a 2,000 member threshold for what our deficit would be of 300,000 people. But you know, how many people were actually at the YMCA from Parry Sound and area before you guys shut down? Because you know, 2,000 people seems like a low number, but in the reality, you know, from our area, there's quite a few people who are seasonal. So, you know, while we may be the lowest percentage, it honestly, the bulk of the expenses and costs should come from Parry Sound. So I'm trying to rationalize my, you know, work my brain around all those ideas. Thank you.
You have a go at that, Ryan, please?
Sam, if you'd like to, I know Sam
Yeah.
has a response.
So when we looked at the existing YMCA facilities, the gym was the size of an elementary school gym. The fitness facilities were roughly maybe 3 people can work out in that facility at a time. That facility was never designed as a recreation facility. It was a donation given to the Y, and the Y repurposed it. The majority of the space and the investment in the space was for the daycare, and they have a kitchen facility. They have 2 daycare classes, classroom, outdoor play area for that facility. It was a repurposing of a building. It was never designed as a recreation facility. And to judge the Y success based on that, if the facility is designed and has the appropriate facilities, people will come and use it.
Let me just follow up on that thought, because I know there's lots of speculation that everything's going to be great, and your comparison to Calgary is kind of apples to watermelon because of the size difference in the population. So do we have an analysis of a comparable population base and a new facility that's gone up in the past 5 years?
Gravenhurst is roughly about the same size facility as what we're proposing, and it is flourishing since it started. And what Clayton Harris had said, the membership is at 16% during COVID. It was reaching 17% during normal times. And it has seasonal residents that use the facility. It has permanent residents that use the facility. It's a success story from day one when we started that project. Rudy, Ryan, you can confirm.
Yeah, same. You're right, Sam. The Gravenhurst facility does see over 16% of the residents supporting the facility. It supports between 1,900 and 2,100 members on an annual basis, and roughly a population of 11,000. So it certainly has that 16% sort of margin discussing earlier, and they are doing exceptionally well in that community. And they've been open since 2011.
Okay, thank you. Lots of questions about the operating model, it sounds like. The next person I have on the list to speak is Jeannie Fiscaldo. Jeannie, are you there?
Hello, I am. Okay, so I have quite a few questions. I'll try and make them very short and quick. Ryan, you said the YMCA tracks usage. I'd like to know how many specifically from Whitestone actually used the center prior to closing its services.
I apologize. I do not have that information available at this time. I'm sorry.
Is that something that you'd be able to get to us?
I will do I can look into it. We have changed our software system since our closure of the Parry Sound facility. I might not be able to access specific demographics, but I will certainly look into it.
Okay. Also, I think it may have been asked, so I just want to get a sense though. Currently, the YMCA owns the property, and I guess this consortium of municipalities would be building the new building. So who would physically own the building?
Mayor Comrie, could I ask, would that be something for you and Michelle to be able to answer?
All right, I think I know what the answer is, but I'll ask Michelle or Clayton, I guess. My understanding based on I don't know if our legal consultant is still on the phone, but my understanding based on what he said was that the municipalities were going to set up a joint board to operate this, and that it would have a 99-year lease on the property. So I'm guessing that they would own the building and I would continue to own the land. But
Mr.
that's not. I see Clayton's face showing up. Does that sound right?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, the partnership, the municipal partnership would own the building, 100-year lease. That model is similar to many of the facilities that the Y has. The Y has built in other communities. Ryan can give specific examples, I'm sure, but where the Y has built the building and then leased the land from the municipality for a 100-year lease. And so that's something the Y is very familiar with. And you're correct that the partnership would own the building, the Y would own the land.
Okay. Also, I just wanted to, based off of the fees that families pay in Muskoka, it seems like children would be paying about $364 a year, and adults would be paying about $600 a year, give or take a few dollars here and there. A family of four would equate to about $2,000 per year. I'm just wondering how many of our Whitestone ratepayers would be able to afford that on top of the tax increases and on top of all of the other things that we see going up around us, like food and gas and all these extra expenses that are coming our way in the next couple of years.
So good question. So a couple of options. So the first one is there has been no fees set forth for this community for this project. We are still a little bit too early for that. Prior to doing any fee structure, any membership program, there would be if the YMCA were the operator, there would be community consultation, there would be work with the managing partners of the facility to make sure that we are establishing the right membership programming and the right membership rates for the community. Regardless of the package that is selected, one of the benefits of the YMCA is our YMCA Membership Financial Assistance Program, where no one is turned away from the YMCA for their inability to pay for a membership fee. So one of the things that we haven't really touched on yet is that inclusiveness that the YMCA brings, is that anyone will have an opportunity to participate in the program. We have the option of providing financial assistance that offsets the cost of the membership for those who require a little bit of help to get involved in the programming.
Right, and while obviously it's great community initiatives, unfortunately, Goodwill does not pay the bills. And I think we need to remember that because this is going to be affecting everybody long-term. So one of the other things that I wanted to just kind of touch base on was based off an interview, there was a statement as to why Parry Sound closed. And it said that there are existing programs within the community that would offer the same type of program. So I'm wondering what's changed aside from the pool. What has changed?
So perhaps we would ask the architect, Sam, to speak to that. But so there is the pool, the indoor walking track, the larger gymnasium that would support full regulation size tournaments, and a whole host of things that aren't included in the existing facilities. But I'll ask Sam to speak more specifically to that.
So specifically, sorry, I just wanted to specifically what was said is that there are other opportunities for folks to get exercise and work out and the community would be better served to close the health fitness portion of that facility to repurpose the extra space for additional childcare. So again, if it wasn't worth it to keep those programs open, what's changing? We're just going to build it bigger and hope that people come?
So because the gym was undersized and because the fitness facilities were undersized, and this is only my opinion on it, once you build a community hub such as what we're proposing with multi-purpose rooms, the fitness facility, 5,000 square feet, fitness studios, the gym, a full-size gym, the swimming facilities, it becomes a community hub. If you have 3 children and 2 are in swimming lessons and 1 is taking and wants to work out, you take them to one center. You don't take them down the street to a facility that's just a gym and doesn't have those facilities. What we're proposing and what this community has said through the community outreach was that they wanted a community hub that would become the center for West Parry Sound and the surrounding all the municipalities.
Okay.
So yes, you can say that it didn't work. It was undersized, underutilized. It wasn't nice space. If you've ever been in the fitness space, you would wait around. We were there for one day. The corridors are tiny. You know, the gym has VCT, not a sprung wood floor. So again, it was a facility that was repurposed. It wasn't designed and built as the proper facilities. So
Okay.
the attraction to the other facilities may be because they're designed as fitness facilities, as a gym.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so one of the other concerns that I have is Huntsville specifically has a larger population of full-time residents, as well as like an enormous amount of seasonal residents, even more so than the Parry Sound District, and specifically these 7 municipalities. That facility is underutilized and they're constantly running a deficit. However, they did not pay for the facility to be built. So it was already worked in to their tax increases long ago. So I'm just wondering what is going to make the Parry Sound Pool Complex different? How are they going, what is going to be different about this facility to make sure that, you know, 20 years down the road, we're not looking at it and say we made a mistake?
That's an excellent question. If I'm not mistaken, and I'll ask Ryan to confirm that, but I'm not aware that the Huntsville facility is operated by the YMCA, and one of the
No, it's not.
that's
It's operated by the town.
right. And YMCA specialize in operating fitness and pools, and that's with that experience comes the ability to joint purchase and to maximize revenue by offering programming that is attractive to the community, as well as reducing expenses where possible. So I think that's why it would be really important to partner with somebody like the YMCA. It's not a guarantee, but we've used very conservative principles in coming up with the business model. And is there anything you would like to add to that?
Yeah, and I think that just to echo that, one of the things that we're able to do is the collaboration with other municipal partners in terms of other non-for-profits, the local health units, the local hospital, to really make this the center of the community and provide the space for everyone to have an opportunity to be part of the facility. So it's not just the YMCA and just the memberships. It's the opportunity to bring the community together and provide those opportunities for everyone to participate in the facility. It's one of the sort of the benefits of a facility like this. And I know, Sam, you had a comment as well.
Yeah, so we've done a number of Y facilities across the country, and we've done a number of municipal recreation facilities across the country. What the Y draws on is their reputation and their ability to get the community and the corporate world involved in the community, the local community, businesses involved. The one thing that they drive at, they have a great marketing and a structure that will draw membership in and customize the facility, the programs for the community. So what you're getting with the Y is all that, and you're not getting a municipality who doesn't have experience. There are municipalities that have experience in running recreation facilities, but you need the resources and you need the infrastructure. That's what the Y is bringing to the table.
Okay, well,
Thank you. Sorry, Jeannie, I'm going to cut you off in the interest of our time and letting some of the other people on the list speak. Thank you for your questions. Sorry, but I'm going to move on to the next person on the list, which is Doug Hickey. Your question, Doug, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Doug. I don't know.
I'm trying to turn my camera on. It won't go on, but can you hear me?
I hear you, Councilor Keown.
Okay, good. Okay, I have 3 points that I wanted to bring up. One is with respect to, I've heard the phrase community outreach. It's going to be a community hub. And I think Mr. Spagnuolo had mentioned about the outreach. Yes, there was a survey that was done last August, and I just want to point out, of the 4,000 people in Whitestone, about 80 people responded. That's less than 2%. And the reason I want to bring that up is I think what you might be sensing tonight is the feeling that folks in Whitestone feel so far away from this new facility that it just doesn't seem to serve Whitestone as much as maybe their closer communities. So that's my backdrop. Here's my 2 questions. First one is with respect to the 6.1%. The 6.1, looks like I can put my video on now. Okay. The 6.1%, I understand it was developed when there was that original study done that was going to cost about $150,000 or $170,000. So at that point in time, for Whitestone to agree at 6%, $10,000 was not a big deal. But now that we're talking a portion of $8 million and our share is $527,000, it starts to beg the question, why are we paying 6% when we're so far away, when Parry Sound is only paying 25%? And so I know the formula was based on 4 things: distance, population, households, and assessment values. But the reality is 75% of our population are seasonals. And a lot of those seasonals will go to their YMCAs or fitness center. And that's the logic that Seguin used to have the formula tweaked so that they only paid half as much as what the formula would normally say. So my first question, and then I'll ask my second question, is why is Whitestone paying 6.1%? It just doesn't feel right. So I need somebody to really explain that to me. The second one is a question came up earlier, which was, what happens if one of the communities, whether it's Whitestone or Carling or McKellar, decides, no, based on our electorate, based on our taxpayers, they don't want us to join because our council has to listen to us. If they say we don't want to join, what will happen? And I heard, well, we're going to have to go back and do a major reset. Yet I also heard from Mr. Sanderson, I think, that you have a considerable contingency built in. So my second question is, if Whitestone steps back, it looks like the project is short $525,000. Can that be easily contained within your contingency? Those are my questions.
Okay, I'm going to I'm going to ask, I guess our CAO to respond. The other folks on the panel were not too much involved in that in the determination of what Whitestone's percentage was, but she's probably the best person to answer that question. And I'll just, before she does that, I'll simply point out that the logic about the municipality of Seguin's percentage, about one of the factors being reduced, had nothing to do with seasonal population. It had to do with the fact that some of their municipality is fairly close to Huntsville, and therefore the people in that municipality would continue to use a facility over on the Highway 11 corridor, which they're already using. So that was the reason for that. But anyway, Michelle, if you could just comment on how the percentage came to be.
I will. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I jump into that, I think I'll do a little follow-up on what you just said. The understanding with Seguin is not only were a certain group of residents close to Huntsville, there was also proximity to Gravenhurst and Bracebridge, which was why on the driving distance component of that funding model, their numbers were reduced by 50%. So that said, as you said, Mr. Hickey, there was 4 components, 1/3 population, 1/3 assessment, and 1/3 household. So this was done for all of the municipalities. And, you know, the CAO group looked long and hard at options, and we were trying to look at something that was fair. This is what we landed on. And then we built in, as I don't think it was an afterthought, because it had always been discussed about proximity to the town of Parry Sound, the driving distance and the weighting, and you know, whether you were 0 to 15, 15 to 30, 30 kilometers. And I did have the question at one time, is this distance as the crow flies? And the answer is no. It was modeled through the West Parry Sound GIS system. So each house was through, not individually, but through the modeling projects, each property was assessed, and it wasn't as the crow flies. It's as you would navigate down your road and out several roads and onto the highway and into Parry Sound. So it seemed a fair way to assess the driving distance, you know, whether it was greater than 30 kilometers, 15 to 30, or 0 to 15. And when we did all our calculations, pulled together these 4 components, it landed just as you see here, with the percentages weighing in as you notice them. You look at the township of Archipelago, they have just trying to look at their, sorry, I just want to look at their population. So Archipelago has a population of 531, and yet their share rate works out to be 11.4%. And that's because of their high assessment. So everybody's, we felt it was fair to look at all these components, and all I can say is when the calculations came and went, 6.1 is where Whitestone landed using this formula model.
Thank you, Michelle. The other thing I would point out is that I think, you know, in the time that I've been on Whitestone Council, I would say we've had probably half a dozen different discussions about around the question of what is Whitestone's fair share of various assessments that would come for activities that are West Parry Sound wide, if you will. And I believe if you went back and listened to those discussions, in most cases, what we were, the percentage that our council was driving for was in that range of about 6%. And we've had other, you know, we've had for some of the services that we get assessed for, including ones that we don't have any control over, we end up with higher numbers than that, and that's always been a sticking point for our council. But I believe that the 6% kind of was, you know, was deemed to be fair by council. So I guess I'm puzzled if the council is now saying no. I think that isn't fair. But in any case, Doug, as to your other question, I don't believe that you're going to get a different answer from the one that the previous questioner who asked the same question got. I'll simply ask if there is anyone who has an answer different from the one that you got before. I understand that I respect the fact that you didn't like it, but I don't believe that any of us has anything more to tell you about what would happen if one or more municipalities choose to, you know, not at the end of the day, not to commit to the project. So that's, you know, that's a highly speculative question, and
Well, no, Mr. Mayor,
until we, you know, none of us, I'm sorry, none of us is in a position to give you more information. I know you'd like it. I think we'd all like it, but we can't answer that tonight. It's
That
not
was-
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor.
Mayor, in all due respect, that wasn't my question. My question was, I heard somebody say there's considerable contingency in this entire project. So my question is, could that contingency possibly handle one community stepping back? So it wasn't predict if we'll step back, it's could it be handled within the contingency?
all right. If anyone, I see Sam's hand is up. Sam, do you want to
Yeah,
answer
so
his question?
the contingency that we were talking about were construction contingency and design contingencies. It has nothing to do with the funding. When we were involved in putting the funding formula together for the application, the strength of the application was that there were 7 municipalities coming together with 2 Indigenous communities, and that, we believe, is the strength of the application for the funding. We've worked on for other communities for funding that did not receive, have been told that they were not getting the funding, such as Tecumseh, and it was because it was a single municipality going after the funding. The strength of this is the location of it, the proximity to other facilities, the 7 municipalities coming together as one. And that's the strength of this application. That's all I can say. I don't know what would happen if one pulled out. My gut feeling is probably would affect the funding formula. You wouldn't get the 72%. That's my gut feeling, but I can't make that decision. It would have to be brought to the federal and provincial governments and reevaluated.
Last comment, we already have 2 groups who have not financially contributed or committed, which are the Indigenous communities. In theory, that says Whitestone could still support, it could be 6 pay and 3 don't pay, or so anyhow, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lamb, I just wanted to point out, yeah, that 6.1% is music to my ears, because as you know, for years I've been saying that that's our proper allocation or in that area. So that's a comment there. I guess the answer, which is I was trying to get at earlier, was, you know, Seguin is, I'm guessing, probably the highest value of properties in the whole area. And to say, you know, they get to only pay 50% of their share because they've got pools in Huntsville and Bracebridge, I might point out that Whitestone is an hour from Huntsville, and it's an hour and 10 minutes from North Bay. And so, and we're the farthest community out, okay? We're not close. We're not McDougall. We're not, you know, so I just fail to see how Seguin gets cut a break, and Whitestone sort of just, even though 6.1%, you're right, is a good area, but it'd feel a lot better if it was maybe 4.2% because Seguin bellied up to the bar. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I see about 6 more hands on the list here, and I am conscious of our guests' time here this evening. So we're approaching about 2 hours, which was kind of the time we had allotted for the meeting. So I'm gonna take a few more questions if everybody's okay. By the way, if any of our presenters have to leave for other things, I would understand that. But I would ask the question. I would ask the next few speakers to, if you do have questions that that can be answered by by the panel, as opposed to questions about that are very specific to Whitestone's participation. If you could leave those till the latter, till the end, and try to get the questions to our panel, please. So the next person I have on the list is Henny Fulton. Go ahead, Henny. Oh, I see that person has disappeared off the list by the look of it. Or no, put. Okay, the next one I see is Kevin. Please, just the name Kevin. Please introduce yourself and ask your question, please, Kevin.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I realize we're short on time. I'll keep it quick. This is really a question directed for Ryan Purdy, and then probably more to council. So in the newsletter we got, we received, I believed it was our participation rate was 6.1%. Ryan, you mentioned that your financial analysis was based on an estimate of 2,000 full memberships. Am I correct so far, Ryan?
Correct, Kevin, yes.
So 6.1% of 2,000 is about 122. Are you estimating the financial implications to Whitestone is based on the fact that 122 full memberships will be purchased or committed by Whitestone area ratepayers?
Again, when we did this analysis, we really looked at the community at a large and not the individual municipalities in the area. So I wouldn't be able to answer that question today, Kevin. When we did do that sort of analysis, we looked at a large demographic and not individual centers or municipalities, I should say.
And that's fair.
Folks, I don't want to be abrupt, but please do not ask questions that have already been asked and answered. If you didn't get the answer, sometimes we don't have the answer, but if you didn't get the answer the first time, you're not going to get it the second time. And in the interest of time, we need to move on. Please ask questions.
No,
that
I understand. I understand that. I want to make sure that because of what we're being asked from a financial burden standpoint, that the people on the call, i.e. the ratepayers, understand what's being asked of us. So my next question then will be directed towards council. You put out the call for respondents. My understanding is a lot of people either wrote letters or emailed, myself included. What are the people saying in general? Are 90%, 80% of us agreeing to this, or what is the sentiment? Thank you.
Again, I will. Well, I'll ask our CAO clerk to answer that. We are not tracking the responses other than to accumulate them. They're being accumulated for for a council meeting in the future when council will have the response from ratepayers. We're still in the sort of information dissemination stage of our process. So, but Michelle, do you want to do you want to comment? I don't think that there's other than comments that have been sent directly to the council themselves. I don't believe anybody has seen any detailed responses. There are lots of responses coming into the to the pool email address, but all we're doing is receiving them and acknowledging them. Staff are, and we're not. They haven't been analyzed. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is correct. I would say we probably at this point have maybe 120. I haven't actually counted them up, but at one point I counted them and there were 90, and I know we've got many more since then. So I'd say 120 to 130 at this point. We're getting a variety of responses. We're getting some yeses, absolutely. We're getting some nos, absolutely, and we're getting some philosophical editorial pieces of people thinking about it and wanting to know more information. And I have not done an analysis, and I'm not sure that was council's direction to me. We will tally up, or we'll compile all of the responses and questions and inputs that we received in a binder for council. Probably you'll want it to be hard copy, a little easier to read, and you'll be able to see what people are saying. Like I say, there's definite no's, some definite yeses, and then some folks in between. So we're still going to continue to receive that information. There's been no hard deadline date at this point, and we're hoping with the information received today that more people will provide input, maybe have a few more questions, or have made up their mind in terms of their position. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lamb, I'll add something to that. As people know, there's two ways that people can make comment, either directly to the municipality under I think it's Pool and Wellness Center or something like that, plus to council members. I've been keeping track of the things that have been sent to council. And so far, since the letter went out, we have received 37 responses, 37 responses from our community. And I'll tell you that the result of that, in tallying it up today, is that 36 of the 37 are against the pool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Henry P.
Hi there. I'm a cottage owner on Whitestone Lake. I'm excited by the project. It has real possibilities, I think, but there's some realities of costs that I guess we all have to consider. I have a couple of points around the idea of a hub. I just have I'd like to get a better idea of some examples of what that might entail. And I also have some specific comments about the design of the sauna that I saw tonight. And I just need to ask Ryan a question about that. But in terms of the hub, for example, does a hub include, or would it include daycare, sports medicine, and items like that?
So the multi-purpose rooms could include some sports medicine. We looked at it, having spaces available to it. This is a programming. It's not the final design of the facility. The municipalities will be going out as an RFP, either as for a consultant team to do the final design based on the program that we develop, or as a design build project. The steering committee and the councils will select a team, and they'll go deeper into the design. Our scope of work was to provide a program that would meet the financial funding that was applied to, and to listen to the community and incorporate as much of the wants into it within the umbrella of the $32 million.
I haven't heard anybody mention casual use by visitors being part of the cost model or the revenue model. I'm thinking of people who come to a hotel passing through for or staying there for some length of time. The idea of some day passes, let's say, to the gym, to the facility. Ryan, would that be in the picture, and could that be calculated in somehow?
Yeah, absolutely. So day pass fee for folks who are coming by, just visiting the community. There's also options in membership models to look at seasonal memberships for folks who are just up for a season, whether it be the winter or summer. So we do have options. We do have no contracts is our membership model with the YMCA. So you're not locked in for a year or for 6 months. You're welcome to be a member as long as you want to be part of what we're doing. So at any time, folks are able to cancel their membership, and that's okay. So we do have time. So there's no commitment. People can come and go as they would like, and day pass and sort of seasonal memberships are certainly options as well.
So your assumption right now was using the classic model only then for at this point in time, because it's early?
Yeah, so with this scenario, we looked at the classic membership model, which is what we have offered in the Parry Sound community in the past. That's not necessarily the model we would look at moving forward. And day pass and seasonal memberships have always been an option for people to purchase at any of our locations.
Okay, thank you. And the question I have about the sauna design is more of a design approach question. I've seen right now the sauna looks like it's accessed from the deck only. I've usually seen design of saunas that go from both dressing room as well as from the pool side. In the final design, would that be reviewed at some point before the decision?
Correct. Yeah. So again, it was not included in our first program, and it was a response from the community outreach. The final design will look at details like access from the change rooms or from the deck based on the user's model. So
okay.
Again, it's just a program. Right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have David West. David?
Thank you, Mayor Comrie. Excellent questions that have been given so far. Thank you very much. Actually, most of them have been answered at this point. I just have a couple left. I would like to thank council and all those involved for putting this meeting on. This has been great. How sure are we of the grant? This is an application, and so I'm just wondering, are we confident that we would get this grant, and are we confident that we would get the amount that we're expecting?
I don't know who can answer that question other than kind of personal opinion. The money is coming from the federal government, and the timing of any announcement or telling us what we will get is they keep that sort of thing very close to their chest. I don't know. Dawn or if you have any any thoughts on the matter, or if anybody else does, I guess we'd all like to know the answer to that, but I don't know how to find it out, to be honest with you.
Short answer is there are no guarantees at this point in time until there's a formal funding announcement and a number publicly released. This is an iterative process and planning process, and we've made some assumptions, and that one of those assumptions is that 73% of capital costs would be reimbursed or would be available to us through grants from the provincial and federal governments. If that is not the case, then that's a reset matter as well.
Okay, well, and I appreciate that, the uncertainty. I get that, but I guess that last part is the important part, that we wouldn't go charging ahead if we didn't have the funding committed. Just, if I may, the last question I would have is, I guess, we can probably afford this, but the question that I'm not sure I have an answer to is what other things are on the capital budget
forecast in the next, say, 10 years or so in Whitestone that might be competing in a significant way with this type of investment? Do we have a kind of a 10-year outlook for capital expenditures that this fits into somehow?
I'll see if our CAO wants to answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is an excellent question. And interestingly enough, this year we are working on an asset management plan, which will bring together not only a 10-year roads plan, because we just finished a road need study, but also some infrastructure improvements that council has been contemplating. So to be specific to your question, Mr. West, I don't think we have an answer right now, but it's something that council will be deliberating through the budget process this year to look at a very robust plan that not only looks ahead for 2-3 years, but looks ahead for 5 years and then into 10 years. And that's something that council will contemplate this year, probably for the first time in many years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, in the interest of time, I'll leave it at that. But I mean, I think my advice to council would be that, we need to be very, diligent about what we're going to be spending, not in just this one project, but in total. I will just end it by saying those were kind of may have come across as fairly negative questions. I think I agree with Henry, who spoke before me. I mean, I'm a seasonal resident in Whitestone, and I think that there are significant value to this type of investment, and I would be happy to, pay for it, even though I probably won't ever use it. Although, I think there are benefits to the community, but I think there's a lot of questions that still need to be asked, and I appreciate that we're asking them and getting the answers. So I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you, David. Next on the list, I have Juliet Terry. Juliet?
Yes, can you hear
There you
me?
are. Yeah, I can see you too.
Juliet, that's a still picture, right?
Well, yeah, but looks like you.
Juliet Terry from Maple Island Road in Whitestone. And I hate to keep picking at the statistics, but I did want to get some clarification on the first box on page 71, which is apportioning out our 6.1% and how we got there. And in box 1, population is in consideration, and then households is in consideration, and then assessment, which I'm assuming to be total value of property assessment, perhaps impact numbers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then for household, just a question, how do you define household? Because if you go to Stats Canada, their definition of household refers to a person or group of persons who occupy the same dwelling and do not have a usual place of residence elsewhere in Canada or abroad. And to me, that would mean that households should be less than population. And I don't understand why that only works for Parry Sound and I think McDougall.
Madam CAO, can you answer that question?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can't, not well anyway, but I will look into it. And we know that the assessment, the households and the population came from MPAC data, but that's a good question. That's something I need to do a little bit more research on.
Thank you. My next question would pertain specifically with the assessment, the property assessment then. Do you not think that going to the tax funding coming in, tax income per municipality would have been a better consideration rather than the assessment, which is a perceived ratepayer value as opposed to what the municipalities actually have coming in?
Okay, so if I understand your question, why didn't you use tax base instead of assessment? Is that,
Yes.
in other words, taking into consideration the fact that the tax rates are not the same across the 7 municipalities?
Well,
I
they
don't know
may or
who-
may not be. I don't know.
They're not. I am just trying to make sure I understand what you're asking. Once again, I don't know if either our CAO or it looks like Clayton is still there, man, whether either of you would be able to answer, because I can't.
Mr. Chair, I can make an attempt to answer the question. The one common base that's common across all municipalities is the assessment value. Impact does all the assessments across Ontario, but certainly across all the 7 municipalities. So there's a consistency in how that's applied. If one municipality has a different tax rate and therefore raises more or less money than another municipality because they've got different services they offer, that's didn't seem to be a basis on which to allocate more of the recreation center cost to them, because that municipality happens to be raising money for other uses. That money that's raised isn't, as municipalities have balanced budgets, so there's no leftover money at the end of the day. So assessment was a common basis across the municipal base. The households, that was part of your question earlier. The number of households was used based on MPAC's count of households. We're trying to use objective data that could be consistent across all the 7 municipalities. Hope that helps.
Okay, thanks for the answer. Can I move on to, I have one more person on the list, and we're getting close to the time that we were hoping to wrap up. Margie
I have one more
Selacki,
question, George.
do you? All right, well,
Just
can you make
one.
it quick, please? Yeah, sorry.
Very quick. In the second box, or box B, for driving distance, I know that Seguin got a break, good for them. Whitestone, which is 100% further away than 15 kilometers, got no break. And we also didn't extra ding Parry Sound or McDougall or Carling for being less than 15 kilometers away, like right there. Can you explain why that wasn't considered?
Okay, Madam CAO again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So each municipality looked at whether they were 0 to 15 kilometers, 15 to 30, or greater than 30. So you can see that there's no Whitestone residents that were 0 to 15 kilometers. We are all 15 to 30 or greater than 30. And that's why you see that weighted percentage at 4.4% for Whitestone, lower than the 6.1 that we're looking at. And if you just used population assessment in a household, Whitestone would be at 7.84. Using the 4.4 weighted average over those 3 categories brings Whitestone down to 6.1%. And you can see that in Parry Sound.
Did bring Parry Sound up though.
Yeah, all of Parry Sound is 0 to 15 kilometers, which makes their weighted average at 30.7% just for the driving distance. Does that help?
A little. It does. Thank you.
It answers a question, but it
Okay, thanks. Next we have Margie Salegi.
Yeah, hi there, everyone. My name's Margie. I was a seasonal resident. Now I'm a full-time resident. So sort of halfway between McKellar and Dunchurch. And my question actually parries off of Juliette's. So I also had questions about the definition of household. And now that I understand that you're looking at that from an impact, my question is, We have 1,100 people population, yet our household numbers are 1,985. So if you're using that as the basis, that means you're using the number of dwellings in Whitestone. Okay, so people or municipalities that have a very high seasonal membership take an unduly high hit when you're using households in that way. So the people that are most unlikely to use the services in Parry Sound are taking a much higher hit. Whereas Parry Sound, their population is 6,000, their households 2,775. I think this is a question that I have, like, was that realized when people, I'm a math person, so those numbers immediately popped out at me as concerns. So the question is, was that considered when the formulas was figured out? Was that realized at that time?
Who would like to answer that?
I may take a stab and then defer to
Thank you, Michelle.
Clayton. All I can say is, you're just sort of going back to sort of first principles. We tried to consider what are the factors that we would need to utilize to have a funding formula. And, we knew that there were many factors, and we didn't want 10 factors, but we wanted more than one. So as Mr. Harris said, we utilized information that had a consistent basis, and that was MPAC. And we chose assessment households and population. And then we rolled into that, the driving distance. Is it a perfect formula? Possibly not. There's other formulas that were presented over the time that we were looking at this, and there were other formulas that actually had no mathematical basis to them, just were somewhat intuitive. All I can say, this is the best and what we thought was the fairest we would come up with, and we didn't perceive that the numbers would look beneficial for one municipality over another, but we had very specific prescribed I guess items that we wanted to look at, or we figured we needed to, and we chose household assessment and population, and then of course added in the driving distance.
Okay, so someone who has come in late to this process, and you look at it mathematically, there is some qualities to the populations of Parry Sound and the sort of the closer communities that McDougall would be another one in terms of households and populations that gives them a huge benefit when this funding formula and proportional cost. So I would just ask that the council and the committee look at that. I think someone really needs to look at those numbers in terms of the burden, because the burden then is falling to people that are the farthest away and are seasonal in nature. The second question that I have is, I'm wondering if council or anyone on the committee has considered what impact this might have on the existing recreational opportunities. Coming from the big city and coming out here, I was amazed at the number of things there are to do out here. We quilt, we snowmobile. Both McKellar and Dunchurch have activities happening at their community centers, and Whitestone's brand new library that are very local to us that I can get to in 10 or 15 minutes. I'm a full 45, 50 minutes away from Parry Sound. So those appeal to me, and I keep very busy during the week. And my concern is that those would then decrease because of opportunities that may happen elsewhere, and that this council puts value in and money into, and I would prefer the money to stay here. So I'm kind of wondering if that's been considered.
Anybody have an answer to that question? I don't.
So if I may make a comment, Mr. Mayor, so it is,
go ahead.
We talk a lot about just, I mean, this proposal, one of the strengths of the proposal is around community building and capacity building. And again, that it's not just about who will use the pool, but how can we make a stronger, more vibrant West Parry Sound region? And that is so that when people require the services of a hospital or they want full service retail in in an area that we can, that people want to come and live in West Parry Sound, not just in the town of Parry Sound, but in places like Whitestone as well. And, that's what this is predicated on. And I can tell you, I spend a tremendous amount of time in the recruitment field for the health center, and that's what we hear consistently from people that they're looking for. It's intended to be complementary to what we have right now, and to build on that and to strengthen it. We see it as a very positive thing. Okay, so as opposed to a cost benefit thing to Whitestone, what you're looking at is a more global Western Parry Sound benefit. And so the question, I guess, that the Whitestone ratepayers and their council have to decide is how much they want to contribute to that, given how much, say, Parry Sound is contributing to something on their own doorstep as well.
Okay, I think that was a comment, not a question, but thank you.
Okay.
We're
Hey, George, you're on mute.
Thanks. My apologies. Sorry. I really like to wrap this meeting up out of respect to all the folks that have taken time, and there have been some very good questions. Lots of good things, that some of which we probably need to give some more thought to. So I appreciate all the input we've received so far. I especially want to thank our I'll call them our panel, our presenters, Don Sanderson and the consultants to the project. I really appreciate it. Apologize for taking so much time, but it's been very helpful to us. What I'd like to do now is ask our council, just so that we can wrap the meeting up. If we could get a motion to move out of committee of the whole into our regular council meeting. Mover and seconder, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Beth. Seconded by?
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
Thank you very much. Can I assume that no one is opposed to going back to regular session? And we are at 8:59 p.m. According to my trusty computer. I'm not really sure that we need to do this, but I do have a motion for an order paper for a confirming bylaw. So could I get a mover and seconder? Not that we passed any other resolutions, but can I get a mover and seconder, please, for the confirming bylaw?
Also move, Mr. Mayor, Councilor McEwen.
Thank you very much. Seconded by?
I can second, Councillor Woods.
Thank you. Once again, if I hear nothing, I'll assume that everyone is in favor of that. And that would then allow us to adjourn. Mover and seconder, please.
I'll adjourn, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Seconded by?
I'll second,
I'll
Councillor
second.
Woods.
Oh, I got Councillor Woods got there first, I think. But anyway,
Fine.
now therefore be it resolved that this meeting be adjourned at 9:01 p.m. until the next scheduled meeting on Monday, January 18th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. or at the call of the chair. Thank you again, everyone, for your participation. Please accept best wishes for the holiday season, and stay safe, stay well. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Be safe. Bye-bye.